What's up, you guys? It's your girl, Rossie McCree, and a special guest with me today. I have Susheel Bibbs with me. She is a classical singer, filmmaker, actress, and she has a documentary that she made, and we'll get into that, about Mary Ellen Pleasant. Okay, you guys, I'm just learning about Miss Pleasant. Susheel did all of the research on her, so we're going to talk about her, and she's going to let you know where you guys can watch the film, the documentary at. But welcome to Rossie's Clubhouse. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join me.
Well, I'm honored to be here. Thank you for
Thank you.
having me.
Thank you. Soul is going on. Well, it will start August 21st to the 23rd. This is something that happens every year. I think Martin does this every year. At the end of the show, I'll let you guys know how you guys can get free tickets by using my name, showing up. And this is a great event, okay? So you want to support your local filmmakers and definitely your local Black filmmakers, you guys. Anyways, a little bit about Susheel Bibbs, you guys. She's a critically acclaimed touring classical singer, actress, scholar, and filmmaker. She's been named the foremost expert on Mary Ellen Pleasant. Bibbs has researched Pleasant's life for over 40 years and has uncovered lost memories, letters, and interviews that allow her to resolve many of the mysteries that have enshrouded Pleasant's amazing life for over 100 years. Tell us a little bit about how you discovered Miss Pleasant.
Well, that's an interesting story. I was singing a concert with Jacqueline Hairston, who just passed away. Was a great composer and pianist. She was playing for me at Herbst Theater in San Francisco, doing a concert. After the concert, we met with a guy at the restaurant, and he said, "Oh, you should play Mary Pleasant." I said, "Mary Pleasant, who? What?" And so, believe it or not, they started talking. They had all these things that they said. She was a mystery. There was scandal. There was all these things. And I said, wait a minute. I'm going to have to look this up. Let me find out about her. The rest is history, literally. I went through libraries and found her memoirs that had never been published. I found her letters. I found the things that she left in the hands of others when she passed away. And it was like a detective story. I couldn't stop. People thought I dropped off. They couldn't find me to do a lot of concerts, but I was just, I was doing a little teaching at UC Berkeley, and I'd run to the library and they would bring stuff up that they said, they say has been lost, but it hasn't. And I'd go through all these things, and I realized that the book that came out in the 1950s really did her a disservice. It was called Mammy Pleasant. She hated
Uh,
that. And,
uh,
it was a disservice to her,
right.
and demeaning. And so people knew that it was a bestseller, and it was
Wow.
not accurate. The woman did a lot of great research, but was pretty biased in the way in which she talked about Pleasant. And so I thought, no, we need our heroes, right? We need to
Yes.
know people that we care about, who cared about us. Says, no, this won't do. And so I started, I was asked by Afro Solo, which is the first year. Now it's been going for, I don't know how many years, but they asked me to do a musical, and that's how the musical came about. The one
Wow.
that is, Oh Freedom Now.
Okay.
I performed it for years. And then I thought, wow, I could keep going, but I better put this on tape. And then I just archived it. And I realized that, let me just take this out, and put it out to some festivals and see what happens. They really liked it. That was last year. It was just a dramatic onstage thing. So I said, oh, I did the wrong thing. And so I presented it to PBS and I redid the whole thing. And that's what you're going to see.
So with it being on PBS, I was watching today, and you have Ruby Dee who's doing a narration. How did you hook up with Ruby Dee? Did she know about Mary Pleasant? Tell me about that.
Okay, Ruby Dee narrated the first film that I did on Mary
Okay.
Pleasant in
Okay.
2007. It won a Telly, and then in 2009, again, it went to the Cannes Film Festival. That was a big documentary. And how
Okay.
did I do it? I knew a woman who was her stage manager and one of her managers, and she just said, "Well, we'll ask Miss D." And she wanted to do it. She was great. She showed up in New York. I had her favorite foods there, and we
Wow.
just taped all day, and she was a lovely person. very, that voice, right? You just know
Yes.
that voice when you hear it.
Yes.
Now, for this film, I have Rayanne Bryce Davis, who is a Metropolitan Opera star, and we have some fun in this new O Freedom film, where she opens and we hear a little bit of her latest recording, which is about freedom, and then she talks about Pleasant. Then I come in, but in the intermission, we do an intermission interview, and I'm the guest. And we had a ball doing this intermission interview, laughing and saying and explaining things that, since this is a musical documentary, it
Right.
had to have questions and answers. So I answer all these questions for her, and then we go back. Pleasant gets to leave the East. We have the intermission, and then we go to California.
Right. And, a little bit about Mary Pleasant, you guys, Mary Ellen Pleasant. She was born enslaved in Georgia circa 1817. She rose to command a joint fortune once assessed at over like $30 million. dollars.
That's
Um,
right.
yeah, which is crazy because you guys, if you know anything about history, we were told that the first and only Black woman that was a millionaire was Madam C.J. Walker. So when I heard about Mary Pleasant, and you sent me all of uh, the stuff that you have on your website, and you guys will link Susheel's website in the description of this video. You guys will be able to go and watch the film. You'll be able to go read about Mary Ellen Pleasant. But me and you were talking, you said you also heard the same thing. You never knew that there was another woman in California that was actually probably the first millionaire, or another millionaire. They always give us one, but they
Well,
always give us
yeah,
one.
there's a reason for this. She was always, she said, people say that words were made. I shouldn't use her voice at this point, but people say that words were made to reveal feelings. I say that words were made to conceal feelings, and I was good at it. I'm not using her words, her voice. But the thing is, she was always do you imagine a child brought up from slavery and told that she had to pass, and brought up to Nantucket Island where she was made an indentured servant for 9 years, and always alone, always having to be covert. Her mother had been a voodoo priest and had been killed on the plantation. She
Wow.
had learned about from Haitian. They were the Haitians, and she had learned about all these things, but she went to the Quakers in Nantucket. They loved her, but always there was this thing of having to hide things. So when she made millions with Thomas Bell, the secretary of the Bank of California, they did that joint fortune together, and she benefited. She used to drop shoes out of the window every day for people. But at the same time, she kept everything close. She never broadcast what she had. Everybody knew what she had because they saw
Right.
the great mansion that she had created. But then she said that it was Belle's mansion and that she was just building it. She would always hide. And that happened when she went to Oakland as well. She moved because there were so many people driving past her house and making it a place to be seen, that she felt she had no privacy, and that privacy thing. So she went to Oakland for a while and put a big fence up, and eventually came back. But so that was Pleasant herself. She was funny, she was witty, but she was really into keeping secrets.
Now, when she joined with John Brown, who is described as, like you described, MLK, Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, like all rolled up into one person. When she joined him, that's when she started her activism, would you say? When she started fighting for not only her rights, but for our rights?
No, you imagine a child having seen all that she saw and going up to Nantucket immediately. And when she got free of the indenture, she went to Boston. She married
Okay.
an abolitionist. She worked
Okay.
with William Grant Still, that whole group that went from Philadelphia to New Bedford to
Okay.
Nantucket and to New York. And so, from the very beginning in her 20s, she was an abolitionist. And they called her when she got got to San Francisco, they called her the Western terminus of the Underground Railroad because she used to go east and have people or send people east and have them bring people out of slave enslavement in the 1850s and put them into work and give them she put had a black color they called a colored bank, and she would
Okay.
give them a place to live, and she would bring their wives. So all along, and when somebody tried to capture someone and take them back into slavery, she would hire lawyers for them. So that was her life from the very beginning.
Right.
And when she got into California, she saw a need for building wealth. She built wealth through her tenant farms and dairy farms and laundries
Wow.
and land, everything, because she had
Wow.
an eye for business, being in the with the business women of
Right.
Nantucket. Those guys in Nantucket used to go out on whalers. They were out for
Okay.
years at a time. The women ran all these businesses, and she worked for 9 years for one of them. So she learned, she said, I could remember the accounts of a whole day and it come rightly, just as I told it. So she
Wow.
obviously had this record memory. So she was a brilliant businesswoman, and she became a great entrepreneur on her own without the final millions that were invested into the various things through the Bank of California with Thomas Bell. So yeah, it was. I looked it up. A lot of people don't believe it. They'll say, "Oh, it's 30,000." No, no. I
It
looked
was a
up.
long.
The she even says in her memoirs. They're saying that he gave me money. I gave him money. She was very clear about her fortune, and
Okay.
yet she told people when she built the house, in addition, that well, she was in service to him. She would do
Right.
things like that to stay hidden. And
Okay.
that is why the history books were confused, because she was her best spin doctor, and she caused a lot of confusion. She said that she had three different sets of parents, was she was born in three different years. This is all the stuff I had to work out. And so what I'm doing in this show is I'm pleasant. I'm doing an old-fashioned Chautauqua, which is where back in the 1890s a person could come on the stage and become a famous person.
Okay.
So I'm pleasant coming back to speak to the newspapers of her time, which, as she said, I was maligned and vilified. And so she's speaking to everyone. She's telling it like she wants it to be told. And this time it's pieced together through my research. So I'm using her words, but I'm piecing together what I found to be true.
What was the issue that when she was in California in San Francisco, why did the tabloids hit her so hard? What was it that she did
Oh,
that they didn't like? Was it because it was a black woman that had all this wealth and it was just how it was at that time, the racism?
no, and not at first. At
Okay.
first, she was passing as a woman who worked in businessmen's employment as a what do you call it, steward, and
Okay.
then and she into the colored, quote unquote, that's what they called it. Community knew her as Mrs. Pleasance, and they knew her as Mrs. Ellen Smith. But then, when 1865 came after the war, with the Emancipation Proclamation, she says, I declared myself a colored woman. I come out in the open for civil rights. So that's when, then she led what they call the Franchise League, which was white and blacks for
Okay.
voting rights and various rights for black people. And all of a sudden, back in 1857, she heard about a relative that had been captured back into slavery, and she went and met with John Brown. And that's she went all across the country to she collected money. She had money from her first husband's estate. So she actually arrived in California with a fortune of
Okay.
$30,000. That's a lot of money back in those days, in the
Right.
1850s. She was not poor from the very beginning, but she invested it in all these different things. She says I put money into gold in South America. And I put the gold in and I took the
Wow.
gold out and I put the gold in and I took the gold out and my money multiplied rather rapidly. So, she invested in the Comstock lode, the silver mining. And it was through her partner, Thomas Bell, who was called the Quicksilver King of California. And quicksilver was mercury. So when the
Okay.
wars came, their fortunes, which money she had invested through him, like Zoom, just blew up into millions. And so because mercury was used for the rifles, for the munitions, for the
Okay.
powder and all that.
Okay. So she helped change laws in San Francisco as far as civil
Oh,
rights.
yeah. She
Okay.
helped change laws in California. And the way well, first of all, she fought cases that had to do with riding the conveyances. They were doing this all across the country. And it's interesting to know that they had a newspaper. And she talks about how she got the newspaper from the East. They all knew what was going on. In the
Okay.
East, they were fighting to ride the conveyances, means the trolleys and that sort of thing. So here you could ride, but you could be thrown off. So she fought
Wow.
cases in and out of court. She won in both. So that in 1866, people here could ride the trolleys, the streetcars, because of her. And then she lost a case, and it was taken up to the California Supreme Court. And that's where that case set precedent, means it could be used in the future. In 1982, a guy named a lawyer named Oppenheimer took that case and brought it before the Supreme Court here in California and won the first damages for pain and suffering
Wow.
in a case of discrimination. So we owe her that as a mother of
Right.
civil rights.
Right.
She actually reached forward almost 100 years and gave everybody the opportunity to sue if they were discriminated against on a public conveyance. That's amazing,
Wow.
really.
That is
That was,
amazing.
yeah. After the film that we were talking about that went to the Cannes Film Festival, there was one called The Legacy of Mary Ellen Pleasant, and that's the
Okay.
legacy that I talked about.
Okay.
She left us something really special. So
Yeah.
Martin Luther King, because she could love across boundaries of race and class without losing sight of her goal. And that's why she got along with so many of the powers that be that were not black, and they helped her politically. And then she was a Malcolm X, because she said slavery had to be ended by any means necessary, and that's why she went back east to work with John Brown. And
Wow.
then we can see a Rosa Parks, because she got on those trolleys and she got thrown off, or she got passed by rather,
Right.
and she fought those cases and she won.
Wow.
So she was all of those, and a great entrepreneur and a great cook.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was known as like the party person for the wealthy in her younger years in the 1850s. They would hire her to do ice sculptures and
Oh,
to
okay.
plan the menus and give the senators like Senator Milton Latham, they would hire her to do the parties for their home, because she learned all these recipes from New Orleans and from Nantucket and from all these places. So she had three things going on. She had her civil rights work, freedom work. She had the helping and the help of African Americans in San Francisco. They called her the Black City Hall, because they didn't know, yeah, they didn't know how she did it. But if they had a problem, she could have it fixed. And the reason was all the young men that she worked with when she was working with their boarding houses when she first arrived, so that she could learn the politics. She took good care of them. They really loved her. And so when they became Mayor Alford in San Francisco, or the governor in of California at one point, they were all her friends. So she
Wow.
would go to them to get help for the black community. So she had all these things, being an entrepreneur, having all these political connections, and, being a civil rights activist, that all worked
Wow.
together.
That's amazing. The fact
Yeah.
that she's well traveled, you know what I mean? It's absolutely amazing. Does she have a legacy? Does she have family? Are they still in San Francisco? Like, what's her life? What's her legacy today?
Well, she doesn't have that kind of legacy. You know, when they ask me questions after my shows, live
Mm-hmm.
shows, and they say, well, do you have any children? And she says, well, I was a mother of civil rights, and I suppose I had many children, But what it was she had one daughter when she was in Boston, and
Okay.
that person she had that child, she had to leave in the hands of a nurse for many years, and then brought her to California, and the girl had five miscarriages and died, and so
Wow.
she never. It's something she didn't like to talk about. So when
Okay.
I answer questions, I have to, react to that question because
Right.
she had nobody. A lot of people think that they have the name Pleasant or Pleasance and
Mm-hmm.
that they're related to her, but that's impossible because they only had one child.
Right.
And, that child passed away without children. But, she is, was named Smith at first. She had some relatives named Parks that she brought to California, and some relatives from her first husband who was also wealthy.
Okay.
And so if you can say that there might be people descendant with those names, but we wouldn't have connected those with
Okay.
her.
So you're still you still perform this show. I mean, it like all over the country.
Yeah, I don't do it as much as I do. I've done it three times, for example,
Okay.
in San Francisco recently for the Women's Museum and for the downtown, the Old Town Museum, Sacramento Museum, and for
Right.
other places. But I don't do the bigger one, this one that's in the film, very often because
Okay.
it requires three players. It's a lot more
Okay.
expensive and a lot more theater time. It's a real theater show with lighting and
Right.
set and costumes. Like she wears one costume, it turns into others, which is kind of fun.
Okay.
And so I don't do it as much,
Okay.
and it requires it's straight, doesn't stop, and
Okay.
require it does in the film, right? But on
Right. Right.
stage, it goes straight with songs and movement and all this stuff. So it's a lot harder to do than the
Right.
dramatic version. What I've gotten to do now is I'll do the dramatic version, which is the same show, but without all the songs. And then I'll stick in little quotes of songs, like, oh, freedom. I'll stick in certain things in certain places, just little quotes. And that people enjoy that without having to do the whole, thing.
Well, why don't you tell the folks when you're going to be, what time you're going to be performing at the Cinesoul. Like I said, you guys, Cinesoul is going to be August 21st to the 23rd. You're going to be there on the 23rd, right? Your film. Oh,
23rd of
tell
it.
them about
Yeah.
Oh Freedom and when they can see Oh Freedom.
Okay. Oh, Freedom, 23rd of August, Siena Soul in at 11 a.m. And that's in the Railroad Museum Theater.
Yes.
I love that place. I think
Yes.
that Railroad. If they haven't seen the Railroad Museum, they've got to come early to see that. That's really something. So
Right.
yes, and they can go to marypleasant1.com and check out her story
Yes.
and some how to get the film. It's available through September, I think, when Vimeo closes. But
Okay.
until then, it's available to be rented also on Vimeo.
Okay. You guys, all that will be linked in the description of the video. So you'll be able to hit the links. You'll be able to go to the website. And please definitely watch the film, you guys. Again, Cinesoul is going to be, it's Sacramento International Black Film Festival, August 21st to the 23rd at the California Railroad Museum. Just to let you guys know now, if you guys use my name, I'll have a list. So you guys go there. You can get free access, but you have to write my name down, Rossie McCree. Just tell them you're here with Rossie McCree. You're on my list and they will let you in. So tell your friends, tell anyone that's in the film community and all my artists out there that came on the show, you guys hook your girl up. Go and check us out. Okay. That's going to be Saturday or the 21st to the 23rd. Okay. So that's Friday through Sunday. All right. And there's many other movies. I think we have, I forget the name of the movie. I don't want to chop it up, but there'll be many movies that you guys can see over the course of 3 days. So go and support Susheel Bibbs and go learn about Mary Pleasant, you guys. This is your time. If there anything else you want to say, if you want to shout out, this is all for you, Miss Bibbs.
Well, I'm just thankful. Thank you for having me. And I'm grateful for Mary Pleasant, and I want people to know about her. So, August 23rd at 11 a.m., come and meet me. And you certainly can ask questions.
Yes.
Enjoy.
Yes. Anyways, you guys, this is my special segment. I thank you guys so much. You guys be good to each other and stay hydrated, y'all. It's here, it's hot in California. We're in triple digits right now, so please stay hydrated. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Bye, you guys.
Bye.